taxes raised one way or the other. And so let me just simplify all of this right now. This is the part that needs to get out to everybody. This is the elite using class warfare to sick the underclass who's confused on what's left of the globalist, ultra-richest hereditary enemy, the middle class that doesn't want to be under a monopoly system. And so they know there's a revolution brewing in this country, and the globalists are masters at co-opting and misdirecting it against their enemy, and that's the middle class. And when they're done with it, just like in Europe and everywhere else, if they have their way, they're going to raise taxes, state and federal, and bring in a VAT and a sales tax that they've got Neil Boortz and the former Federal Reserve head in Kansas City, the second most powerful position. It's New York Fed head, then Kansas City head. Kansas City is the number 2 Federal Reserve post. And, of course, they have Neil Boortz and his boss up there, Herman Cain from the Federal Reserve, pushing new sales taxes, VAT, on top of the income tax. They're not going to get rid of that. Bill O'Reilly's pushing it. I've got videos of Glenn Beck on O'Reilly and his own show saying VAT, sales tax. This is conservative now. Pay our fair share. All the corporate welfare, the tens of trillions to foreign banks, the $2 trillion overall in defense spending, $1.1 trillion in the public budget, $800+ trillion in the supplemental. You're right at 1.9 or right at 2 trillion, counting some of the other black budget stuff. This is what we're talking about. And if we don't get this information out to people, they're going to win. They're going to take all the energy generated by their corruption and their enraging of the public and spin it around and further raise taxes and further bankrupt this country, just like their carbon taxes would do, that are only selectively enforced against small and medium-sized companies and that insider globalist corporations are exempt from. So I can say unequivocally that the groups in Occupy Wall Street, the groups that started it, the groups that are running it, the groups that are dominating it, the groups that are hissing at and pushing away in the Fedders and Ron Paul types that are showing up at these events, they are Barack Obama, Democratic Party arm. Then the Republicans will play the part of opposing them, thus claiming Wall Street are the good guys when they're not. So they'll say, look at these communists. See, Wall Street's good. Well, Wall Street are the ultimate communists, taking our tax money through bailouts and being too big to fail, and then creating derivatives garbage and then threatening to bankrupt the entire system if we don't pay tens of trillions into them. So you've got all these well-meaning people out on the street. You've got all these well-meaning people out there all over the country now. And when we had in the Fed demonstrations with 300, 400, 500, 1,000, depending on the event, some had over 2,000 of them, no media coverage to speak of, almost none. The U.S. Army surveilling us, pointing out this is who's imploding the economy, this is who's behind the bailouts, it's only going to get worse, watch the Obama deception, it's free online, we cover it all, we predict in a few years it'll only get worse. They will announce a Bank of the World over the North America and over the Euro. They will raise all these taxes and have it paid into the bankers, and it won't fix anything. And they will sick the mob on the middle class. It's all in the Obama deception, fall of the Republic. We're now here at this point. I watched the Wall Street group. I wanted to see if it was totally Sorosian run. I knew those elements were there. Now it's clear they created it. They've given it attention. They're calling it now in the globalist publications, London Telegraph, New York Times, the revolution is here. They're branding this the revolution. They demonized the Tea Party because it isn't perfect, but it came out of Ron Paul libertarian roots, so it was the enemy because it's anti-Fed, anti-Federal Reserve. It got demonized. It got called radical. It got called extreme. It got called minority. It got demonized, and for a while they ignored it, but then they couldn't, so they just demonized it, when most polls actually show it about 65, 70% popular. Now they're going to call the revolution a bunch of really, most of them, at least the ones I've seen as the Yell leaders, totally empty-headed, zombie-like people. And we've got a CBS News piece linked up at Infowars.com, just one of the ones I watched this morning when I was 100% confirmed my worst fears. And it was just like a girl looking on a page going, and we 99% demand socialism. And then you cut to Warren Buffett going, it's wrong, the rich don't pay anything. Raise my taxes. This is being broadcast on ABC News, CBS, CNN. These are all the channels that are basically exempt from taxes that get banker bailout money, your tax money. It's the ultra-rich using the poor as pressure from above and below to, like a vice grip, go in on what's left of the middle class. I hope you understand this. I hope you realize this. Now, I've got a battle plan to counter this. We have got, and I plan next Friday or this weekend coming up to go to Friday. I'll probably be at the Dallas Fed in the evening. I'll burn out at 2. Try to get up there before dusk. Maybe I'll have to go off early if I do this. Or have Aaron sit in for me, Aaron Dykes. I will get up to the Dallas Fed at like 6 o'clock for a demonstration. In fact, let's just announce it right now. I'll plan it right now here with you on air. This is just in my region, my neck of the woods, Region 6 FEMA. I will go and protest the Dallas Fed on Friday. Okay? Dallas Fed this next Friday. Dallas Fed this next Friday. Let's make it 6 o'clock. Dallas Fed over there, right in the middle of downtown Dallas. Richard, you used to live there, so did I. I was just there a few years ago. What's the name of that whole area? It's got the Natural History Museum right by it, the aquarium.
You're talking about Fair Park, are you?
Yeah, Fair Park. Well, I mean, where is that the Dallas Fed is based?
I think it's close to downtown.
Yeah, I know it's downtown, but I'm thinking, what's that exact area? It doesn't matter. We'll have maps and all that. Friday, we're going to be there. Then I'm going to drive overnight, and we'll have a demonstration at the Houston Fed at high noon the next day. High noon the next day. And wait, I'm not done from there. We have 2 or 3 Feds in Texas. San Antonio has one. Is it better to start in San Antonio than shoot to Dallas and in the morning and then be in Houston Saturday evening? Or would you rather go to Dallas, Richard, since you're driving, Dallas, and then Houston, San Antonio back? We'll do that. Dallas, Houston, and then Sunday morning we'll do San Antonio, and then I'll come back to the Sunday radio show. How's that sound? All right, we'll do it that way. So that's the plan. Next Friday, I'm going to be at the Federal Reserve, and I'll explain why in a moment. You obviously, most of you know why, but I'll explain it to new folks who are tuning in right now. Next Friday, 6 o'clock, I want to see everybody there. That should give you time after work to get there in downtown Dallas at the Dallas Fed. Then the next day, high noon, in Houston, I will be at the Houston Fed, where Ron Paul was when the Army was out surveilling him. Then the next day at, let me pick a good time, 10 a.m. San Antonio. That way I have time to go for a few hours, then get back in the bus and go up to Austin from San Antonio so I can do the 2-hour radio show, 4 to 6 p.m. Okay? So you want action, you got it, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm calling on a nationwide Occupy the Federal Reserve movement. You're seeing it born right here. Occupy the Federal Reserve. Occupy the crony capitalist, the crony fascist. They're not free market. Occupy the monopoly men of the Federal Reserve. We are going to point out not general Wall Street and capitalism. They're saying Wall Street, free market, capitalism's to blame. Really? Government taking my money at gunpoint and giving over $27 trillion, according to Bloomberg, in the last 3.5 years to foreign offshore banks and paying off U.S. media like MSNBC, hundreds of millions of dollars of my tax money and your tax money on record. 52% of the U.S. pays no income tax now, and they want to sick them on the rest of us that still do. These are offshore banks who are exempt from it all. We are not going to go protest everybody that works on Wall Street out of 10,000 plus companies or more that are represented in stocks there. Manufacturing companies, merchant companies, small and regional, I mean, there's so many travel companies, hotel companies, all of it. Michael Moore says the problem is capitalism, period. This is not capitalism. This is mega banks who control the issuance of currency and credit since 1913 taking over our country. But I'm going further than that, ladies and gentlemen. I am sending Rob Jacobson and others to New York today to cover the George Soros provocateur protest. And we're going to point out there are real people, real patriots who understand that it's crony, non-free market, monopoly, fascism that we're dealing with that uses socialism at the grassroots to get us socialized and dependent and then transfer our wealth out of the country. The globalists are waging war against industrial bases. They're waging war against you having a successful business. There's so much wealth and so much energy and so much power in humanity in commerce. We'd all be living like kings. Everything they do is about shutting down economies. They got rid of the Glass-Steagall, the private Federal Reserve shareholders, the big 6 megabanks. That's who we're going to protest. They're the people that want us to pay off their $1,500 trillion. They're the people that are sucking us into their false black hole. So I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say it again. Occupy the Federal Reserve. Expose the crony insiders. Yeah, here is the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas, 2200 North Pearl Street. It's got a castle wall around it with battlements. Most of the Federal Reserves do. The one in New York has fortresses, a fortress around it with big, giant iron grates, because they understand they are in an enemy camp. They are in our republic. There it is in Dallas. We're going to get it all out. Paul Watson, all the writers tomorrow. You will see the announcement. We're not going to let George Soros get away with this. We're not going to let George Soros and Warren Buffett and Al Gore and the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and all the usual suspects sit there and rape us and then say, oh, look, Wall Street's exempt from taxes. These are the very men that got the laws written where they're exempt to be offshore. That's what globalism is. You pay for the military to back up their globalist takeover as the European, U.S., English empire. You pay for the banker bailouts. You pay for everything. And then you are middle class and own a pool company or own a car dealership or own a restaurant or own a little shop, and you're living the American dream. And they're like, oh, yeah, you're rich. We're going to get your money. And they sick a giant pack of snot-nosed socialist college students who've never worked a day in their life, who've been bankrupted. I told you guys 10 years ago not to go to college, and I was attacked. I told you you were paying 2, 3, 4 times what it was worth. I told you there weren't going to be any jobs left. I told you 10 years ago, most people I knew who had 2, 3 degrees were bagging groceries. Oh, and I was the bad guy that didn't want you to have an education. No, it doesn't work. You go for a 6, 8 year engineering degree, they're going to take your job with somebody from China or India. Not that they're bad wanting jobs there either. It's the way the globalists have set it up. Okay? And now you got millions of mad people who can't pay off their student loans. You got the Department of Justice SWAT team raiding people that haven't paid their bill when it's not even a criminal issue. It's a civil issue to intimidate people, but it's not criminal to not take shots and they're arresting people. This is a pack of crooks. It's not criminal to not take the Garda shield. But that piece of garbage Rick Perry said it was. Now, listen, the controlled right wing, Limbo and Beck and all of them who supported the banker bailout, who support the new VAT taxes on top of all this stuff to, quote, pay off our debt, they're going to keep the income tax. They're going to tell you Wall Street's perfect. They're going to mix mom and pops and small Wall Street penny stocks in with the big mega banks. It isn't Wall Street's good and everybody else is bad on the left. Or isn't everybody on the left is good and Wall Street's bad? Wall Street is just a name of a stock trading area. We're going directly with people with names. The Federal Reserve of Dallas, the Federal Reserve of Houston, the Federal Reserve of San Antonio, and I would go more places, but I've got to do the nightly news. I've got to do the daily 3-hour radio show. You in your town, next Friday, next Saturday, and next Sunday, you need to get together in groups, organize it, or if you don't know anybody, go to meetups, whatever. We'll create lists throughout the week at Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com, and you get out there, and we need to identify the real enemies. Now, I haven't talked for 30 minutes to home base there in Austin, kind of our Houston or our Cape Canaveral, while I'm out here floating around in the middle of nowhere. Guys, give me a check. Everything's still good on the Skype here? Oh, I see Richard's over there right now. Richard, you want to come over here and say a few things before I collect myself and just kind of, I need to get Aaron Dykes. I need to get, I'm running out of editors. I need to get Rob Dew or somebody to kind of take this whole rant here and kind of boil it down to 5 minutes to make the succinct points. But Richard, you want to jump in here and sit around here, buddy. You want to jump in here and say anything to folks about, basically, you've been hearing me rant for 35 minutes. about the takeaway that you've gotten from what I've said? Do you agree? What do you think of the spontaneous ideas that I just literally, I mean, I was